podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Join us on this week's Wrap podcast, where we take a look at all of the Welsh side's performances over the last weekend. We may touch on the odd referee decision here and there. We pick our players of the week and we take a look ahead at what's coming in the next weekend. Let's get on with it. You're listening to Wrap, the Welsh Regional Rugby Appreciation Podcast. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Rap Podcast. Welcome back to all our regular listeners who are becoming much great in their numbers. Joining me as always, Jamie, Harley and James. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
What's happening?
So just since the start of the season, our figures have gone absolutely mental. So I thought it might just be a blip because of the start of the season, but we kept going.
Russian bots. Are you sure it's no Russian bots?
Yeah, it is good. No, it's going really well. Just seems to, and all of the feeder pods as well. So yay us, well done us. So let's start with the usuals this week then, while James finishes off his breakfast. that's going to go well on you.
You're not even joking. I haven't had lunch, so this is my lunch.
So
I'm being getting out a lot for James, but that's the world's smallest violin.
That's the smallest violin. Let's start with drink of the week. So I'm gonna wuss out because I've got a genuine reason that I actually finished my drink of the week before we started and then didn't have anything to replace it with. So it was a nice cup of tea, but that was it. So Harley, go on, you can go next. What's your drink of the week, mate?
So Mad Rush Morrison's for the 4 for £7 oil, and I have accidentally picked up a gluten-free golden beer called Seascape by Evan Evans, which is possibly the most Welsh name for a brewery ever. Seascape 4.6%. I'll be honest, tastes a bit like ass. It's not a particularly good beer. So I'm glad this one's out of the way for the batch I've got.
So what do they remove and what do they replace it with?
Well, they've removed gluten and replaced with the essence of Alwyn Jones's sweat by the taste of it.
Nice.
Get me the link, please.
Okay, so nothing from me, a disaster from Harley. James?
A bowl of cottage pie.
Right, unless you start chugging it, it's not a drink. So
yeah. Seeing as James has only just come in from work, we'll forgive him for that one.
I have got a bottle of water, and I did have a McDonald's Sprite, but that's next door. I haven't brought that in.
This segment's going really well.
It gets better every week, doesn't it?
Anything to sum up Welsh rugby in 2024.
Jamie, are you going to save us with a drink of the week of any credence, mate?
Right, so here's the thing. This beer has been in my fridge for months, and I've put it off until tonight. So you might know this one, Lee. This is from Harbour Brew. This is Trawler's Dread. I don't know if you've tried that one before.
Oh, I've seen it. I think I got a bottle of it downstairs, yeah. So
this is a black IPA, and it's infused with Pembrokeshire seaweed. So for YouTube viewers, you can see it's absolutely black.
That looks like a stout.
It's a dark beer, and the problem is I don't particularly like dark beers. Now, I've been open-minded. I've had a couple of tastes, and I don't like it at all. So I'm putting that aside. I will not be drinking it during the pod. Instead, I've had to substitute it for a Pepsi Max. So I do apologise, but I can't drink it. It's not for me. That beer is not for me.
On the plus side, it looked exactly the same in the glass.
Yeah, you could.
Yes, it would. Yeah.
I always wonder where Gareth Hanscom's blood went from that transfer announcement video, but now I know.
It's not very nice.
Fucking video.
It's not for me.
See, I quite like
the most heinous thing the Ospreys ever did after re-signing James Hook.
I'm still moaning about that. I quite like a stout, Jim. I've got it downstairs, and hopefully, fingers crossed, after Christmas, I'll be back to it.
It's a black IPA. It's not a stout, but it does have that taste about it. It's just not. It's not for me. I really don't like dark beers or stout or anything like that. So, never mind.
Well, the seaweed thing is getting quite popular down here now.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot of seaweed farms, and there's seaweed in everything at the minute. So yeah,
Bloody millennials.
yeah. So just to recap, we've got nothing, a beer that tastes of armpit sweat, a thing of Sprite which is next door, and a beer which is so crap you can't sniff it. Just to sum up drink of the week this week.
It's gone well this week, this segment,
we found our
isn't it?
YouTube segment for this week.
Yeah. We'll make an effort next week. Right. So given that we haven't, I mean, the WRU are letting us down once again because there's absolutely no news. Again, this is like the fourth or fifth week where there's no scandal, there's no nothing. But what we do have is we do have the start of the rumor mill. Normally this comes kind of mid-November through into December when agents are trying to get better deals for their players. So it started a bit early this year. So Jamie's news desk is now Jamie's rumor mill, and will be until the WRU screw something up in the men's game. And I say that because if you listen to the women's pod, they'll tell you all about how they've screwed it up in the women's game. So in the men's game, they haven't screwed anything up so far this season. So Jamie, rumor mill, all yours, mate.
Right, let's kick off the rumour mill with Sam Costello. So, Daily Telegraph are reporting a Scarlets and Wales fly-off Sam Costello is wanted by Leicester Tigers as a replacement for Andre Pollard, who is coming out of contract at the end of the season. There's been talk of Pollard returning to Japan rather than South Africa because obviously the money is much better there. Now, Costello's contract at the Scarlets expires at the end of the season. The 23-year-old has only won 15 caps for Wales, meaning he would have to figure in every test match this season if he was to move to England and still remain eligible under the 25 cap law. So there's been a lot of talk about Costello lately, his form. I've seen a lot of Scarlets fans being on his back as well. He looks like he's suffering a bit of confidence at the moment, but he is wanted by Leicester. Leicester rather, to replace Pollard, who's going to go to Japan, it looks like. So I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that. I think it's agent talk, personally. I can't see it. I can't see him going back to Leicester unless things get really bad for him, his form really dips and he feels he's had enough and he wants to get out the Welsh Goldfish Bowl, because what we don't want to see is what happened with Rhys Priestland. And it's starting to feel a little bit like that now with me, with the comments I'm seeing from Scarlet supporters and other supporters online. So I don't know if you want to make a comment on Ali.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say exactly the same thing. It's Priestland all over again, and it gets on my tits, to be honest. And I know agents are there to, promote their player and get the most that they can in a short period of time. You might pick up a nasty injury next season, and that's it that's his career over with. So you've got to take the money while it's there. But just give the guy a break. Just let him play his rugby. And if you want to do, dealing and stuff behind the scenes, and go do it behind the scenes. Don't splash it over the papers. Don't put it out there and mix up stuff in the press that doesn't need to be there. This is stuff that gets dealt with behind closed doors for a reason.
Yeah, but this is what agents do mainly. They know people in the press, they leak stuff, they say, just to let you know, my agent is coming out of contract and this club wants him. That's what they do.
Yeah, and I know a couple of agents and I get on really well with them. But when it comes to doing this in the press, they are just trying to stoke a price. And I've said one of them to their face that it's shit. Go drive a taxi or something, because at least you'll be serving a purpose. So, I think, Sam's having a bit of a dip in form at the minute, but he's had injuries and an illness and all of this kind of stuff. And he just needs a run of games where the pressure isn't on him. And that comes from the team around him delivering another level. And we'll come on to the Scarlets game later and all of that kind of stuff. But I think we're getting to that stage where actually he's feeling a bit more comfortable in what he's doing now. Give him a break, give him a couple of weeks. He'll be fine. His form will return, and then those same people that are going get rid of and all that kind of stuff will be turning around and going, how did we ever think of letting anybody talk to him and all that kind of stuff? So yes, there are people in the pipeline. As you would expect down west, the 9 and 10s are stoked in academy. there's a 17-year-old coming through that people are saying, let's stick him in the firsts now. Genuinely, that's how good he is. And you've got a couple of guys playing SRC at the minute that are carving it up as well. So, yeah, if he does go, there are people in the waiting to fill the gap, but it's not at the level that he's at now. So, yeah.
I for one can't wait to see where former Osprey under-16 player Sam Costello goes, as they were quick to point out in the article, which I found quite funny.
I didn't know that.
And for Leicester Tigers Academy, which is almost him coming back to the people who actually gave him a big
that's
shot.
why he's going back to Leicester.
No, he's former Osprey under-16, Sam Costello, and that is what he'll be known as forevermore. I would just like to point out this is the third time since before summer this rumour has been relayed to me. And funnily enough, it was last week, before this story ran for the first time in Wales Online, because this was reported last week in Wales Online as well. This rumour was told to me again. So this has been building traction for some time in various rugby circles, and somehow has got back to me. Personally, I'm kind of, everyone knows I'm not a Scarlets fan, but I also don't want to see a young player.
Really? You surprised us? Thanks for clarifying, James.
Look, I'm not. Look, some people. Look, I'm just so impartial and balanced. People are pointing out. But I don't want him to not necessarily Reece Priest. I just don't want him to have to suffer, and I also don't feel that the right support structure has been put up around him. I fully accept that the modern game comes with criticism from fans, and fans who, there's a fine line. You do pay a ticket, so you're allowed to have an opinion, right? But when criticism turns into, or when criticizing someone's skills in a profession crosses over into personal, is when it becomes too much. But yeah, for me, from looking in on the outside, and I deal with very similar things in my line of work, I'm not seeing the right support structures being put in place. So the biggest thing, and I want to say, was the kicking thing last week. At no point did someone turn around and say, I'm going to take the tee off you because you're having a bad day. Like that's not a criticism of Costello. It's more someone should relay that message: is take the tee off of Costello, give him one less thing to worry about.
And that's what I mean about the rest of the side needs to step up.
Not necessarily the rest of the side. It comes from up top. It comes from up top. Only the coach will relay that message.
Yeah, we know you're a big fan of Peel, mate, but I think people on the
Dwayne Peel has had barely
on the pitch.
Only had 3 years with that squad. He needs more time.
It comes to everybody on the pitch needs to be in that place where they can go. It is a captain. Partly it is a player. Because his kicking from hand wasn't great, but when you look at his tackling and how many times he put Bundyaki down, then he's not having a bad run of form. Because he's taking down a former guy who was nominated for Player of the Year.
That's all well and good, but ultimately he dropped a crucial high ball in the 78th minute.
Yeah.
And the week before missed 2 kicks that would have got you back within the game. It's great that he's tackling Bundyaki, but defence has never been his problem.
No. Well, we're getting back on to the game.
We'll come on to that later. Sorry. In the reviews. Because I have some things.
What else have we got in the rumour mill, Jim?
So this is an interesting one. Rugby Pass are reporting that Cardiff are keeping tabs on Exeter Chiefs inside centre Joe Hawkins, the prodigal son of Welsh rugby, Joe Hawkins. They're keen to take him back to Wales for a move that would allow him to kickstart his international career. Now, Wales Online reported this story as well. However, they are saying that Cardiff are not the only Welsh team to show interest in Joe Hawkins. Other Welsh sides are understood to be keeping tabs on the player. although there are no offers on the table and nothing imminent in terms of a return. They haven't named the Welsh clubs, of course, so we got no idea who else is interested. But yeah, I find this one quite interesting. I personally don't get the hype with Joe Hawkins. And I'm not saying he's a bad player by any stretch of the imagination. I think he's a good player, but I can understand the fascination and the hype surrounding this guy. Because Wales seem to think that if we get him back to Wales and get him in the Wales team, all the problems are going to be fixed. So I just don't get it myself. I haven't seen anything from him that justifies the hype that he gets. But that's just my opinion anyway. What do you think of this one, Harley? Joe Hawkins to Cardiff.
As I said in our chat, I think if we were going to go after a Welsh qualified Wales player, it'd be Chunza or Jenkins, because we're still quite thin in the pack. And I'll be honest, that's a Cardiff thing. I mean, he's exactly the sort of 12 Jockey wants. That playmaker 12 who can sort of also step in as a 10. So actually, be very useful on the bench. But then, we've just signed Rory Jennings. So is it a case of Jennings is going, or is it he's replacing De Beer? Because I think De Beer was only on a 2-year contract initially. I don't see him getting into the first team behind. Well, so actually maybe ahead of Sheedy if you push him to 10, but if you're pushing Hawkins to 10, but I've not seen enough of him. I mean, I've watched a lot of him at Exeter, and I think he's pretty good, and he's definitely up there as first choice 12. But I don't think he sets the Premiership alight. I don't think he necessarily does what they need him to do either. I mean, if we've got the spare money, maybe give it a shot, because I don't know. Personally, I don't see the hole in the squad for him.
And I think it comes back to the last bit of that report, Jamie, where it said there's no offers on the table and there's nobody confirmed an interest, which brings us back to agents, and that's what it is for me.
Take a guess who his agent is.
Is it Derwin?
It is Derwin.
Of course it is.
I would like to point this out, just some stats around Hawkins. He's not scored a try for Chiefs. He's started 17 out of 24 games, including
but
3 in a row.
Not every player scores tries all the time. So
No. But what I'm saying is he having the right RX to getting the value out of him to what he's been signed to do, right? He was signed because he's a creative 12 who can play 10 but can also hit gain line. So RX to getting the value out of him compared to what they're paying him, which I can't imagine is massive money, right? He'll be on Wales, whatever the going rate for a Wales player is, because he's got 5 senior caps. But are they getting the value out of him? I can speak from an Ospreys point of view, where people were more gutted to lose Ethan Roots than they were to lose Joe Hawkins. Because
you didn't play the game which was really Joe Hawkins what you needed. Keith is what you needed for.
No. But what I'm saying is, at the time, everyone said that he wasn't ready. He was parachuted into a Wales team, right? That realistically didn't need him, but he was also just, like you said, not what we needed. But then again, what has he gone on to do? He's not gone on to do an Exeter, haven't won anything. At least what we say with Ethan Roots, we saw the value in it because we sold him on. He became one of the best sixers in the Premiership last year, got England caps, So I know Joe Hawkins can't get Wales caps, but realistically, has he set the world alight? No. Why would Cardiff be looking at him is because they're anticipating losing someone. They wouldn't sign him to sit on the bench, right? Or they wouldn't be looking at him to come and sit behind Ben Thomas or Callum Sheedy or Dinas De Beer. That's why they're looking at him, because they're anticipating losing someone. And we'll come on to that because in a rumour mill at the minute.
Whoa, James has got something tucked up his shirt. He's got something in. He's going to go, I know, I'm going to throw this one out now and I'm going to fuck up Cardiff. And no, he's not. No, he's going to have a drink. Oh. Jamie, what else have we got in the rumour mill, mate?
Last one for me. So today, Steph Thomas from Wales Online has wrote an article saying that the Dragons are leading the chase to sign Gloucester second row Freddie Thomas. He wrote that Thomas has started the season well for Gloucester and was outstanding in their dramatic victory over Bristol Bears in front of Warren Gatland and Rob Howley at Ashton Gate a couple of weeks ago. He's a 22-year-old former England under-20s international, but Thomas has publicly said that his goal is to play for Wales because he qualifies courtesy of his parents. The report also says, though, that Ospreys and Cardiff are interested in him as well, and another English Premiership side have also shown an interest, but Gloucester are keen on keeping him. But according to Steph Thomas, the Dragons are leading the chase to sign Freddie Thomas. And this one does make sense because Rhys Blumberg, the Dragons CEO, was on the Premier Sports URC podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he told Tom Shankman that the recruitment strategy is going to be based around Welsh exiles, and they're going to be looking over the bridge. So this one does kind of make sense. And I think it'd be a pretty good signing, to be honest. So, yeah, I don't know if you've got any thoughts on now, or James wants to move on to his rumour.
No, that was my rumour. I was saying in
okay.
terms of Dragons know what they've already lost because they've had 2 players retire that wouldn't have factored into their budget from last year. And as you said in our group chat, there's likely going to be people within that second row, back row area who are not going to be here. So you look at even like Tame Basham, right, is on a 1-year deal. No guarantees. You'll know realistically by February whether he's going to be here or not. Yeah. So that frees up money. Dragons makes the most sense from a financial point of view. I had this conversation with some Ospreys fans the other day who said they were talking about how they reckon Scarlets were going to have a great year because of all these signings they've made and stuff like that. And I said, just because they've made signings doesn't mean blah, blah, blah. They said, we've all got the same budget. I said, yes, but their circumstance meant they had more money to play with over a shorter amount of time than we did. So you look at Dragons now, their budget for next year is slowly starting to take more shape because they understand already they've lost 2 players. Well, they've lost 1 player who was on a Welsh international salary, and then 1 who was a tenured player, so probably would have been a bit of a high earner. So it does free up some cash. So I think Dragons makes the most sense. I like Freddie Thomas. I think he's a good player. Everyone I spoke to who's Gloucester fans really like him. I'm not saying it would be a coup. I think it would be a solid sign who could potentially go on to be a good international.
I tell you what is interesting as well. Blumberg also told the same podcast that Dragons got 20 players out of contract this season.
Yeah,
which includes Ben Carter, Dragons captain Ben Carter.
Ospreys will have a similar thing because everyone out of COVID signed 2-year deals, or everyone out of the financial situation signed 2-year deals.
Yeah, so I think Cardiff were in a sort of similar thing, but we were 1 year and then come through. So it's a bit like after the COVID extensions, we basically had the whole squad up for signing. And I mean, as for the signing Welsh qualified players, that just makes sense for all 4 teams because otherwise you've got to get the PRB to agree to it. Whereas if they're Welsh qualified, they sort of go, can't stop you.
Especially if Gatland wants them as well, isn't it?
If Cardiff want them, there'll be a couple of brown envelopes on Westgate Street flying around.
But would you rather
we like
sign,
type 5s now?
Would you rather sign somebody that isn't going to get a Wales call-up? Do you know what I mean? Would you rather sign somebody that's going to be there for the whole of your season and is going to be a really decent, solid player? Might not be international level, but will be a rock solid, decent player every week of the season. And when everybody else buggers off to internationals, you've got a hard core of players that have been there all season.
It's a fair point, but there's no guarantees they'll be called up for Wales. I mean, Lloyd Evans was talking about getting in the Wales squad, and so far it hasn't worked out at the Dragons, is there? So there's no guarantees, but I do think Welsh exiles is the way to go.
He's been lucky about injuries that he's in the Dragons squad.
But also, if you go into that, if you have that attitude when signing players, you're showing no ambition. If you sign a squad that basically says, right, they're going to be here all season, but they're average at best players, right? You show no ambition as a squad. If you have your Wales internationals, right? Everyone can learn from that in the squad is more valuable than signing someone who won't play for Wales, but then is also just a 6 out of 10 performer regionally every week.
Yeah. got to have some ambition, I suppose, and you've got to make statement signings to show sponsors, supporters that you're on the right track, and you've got some ambition, haven't you?
I mean, there's things with this. I'm going to be very boring on the fence here now, but it is a balance. You've got to have stalwarts who are going to be there, so you've got continuity week in, week out. You've got to have your Lloyd Fairbrother's, who absolutely fantastic regional servant, probably wasn't quite international. Although actually, I think he should have had a bit more than his one uncapped cap. But then you've got to have some Stardust, otherwise. But if you go too far that way, you end up with the situation Benetton and the Sharks are in, where when they're international, the superstars are away, and the performance completely falls out through the floor. And you do have things like where, as much as you're taking the piss out about Cardiff and saying, "Oh, someone signed them for the content," we don't sign people so that they go play for Wales. We don't promote people from the academy. It just happened, and we're all just like, "This is too soon." Let Mackenzie Martin have his 4 games a fucking year off the bench to get used to pro rugby before you go through him against France. But,
a couple of seasons ago,
it doesn't matter how you try squad building.
Yeah, but a couple of seasons ago, Scarlets had Halfpenny and Liam Williams at fullback. We had 3 scrum halves, 3 international scrum halves when Dane Blacker got called up at one point. It like I said, there's a balance that you need to strike in between them. Anyway, we digress. We go off on a rare one. I'm assuming we've not got anything else, James?
Nope, that's it. We're done.
Cool. I'm going to have to come up with a new jingle for the rumour mill now. I failed to get a jingle for News Desk.
Yeah, you don't have to
don't put yourself out there. You've got so much other
please, just spend some time with your family. Go for a nice walk. Catch up at a box set,
Jamie's rumour mill.
Right, moving on.
Right, let's first game of last Friday. Let's do Cardiff and Glasgow. How did that one go, Harley?
Fucking great if you ignore the fact that we conceded 52 points, because it was almost classic Cardiff in many ways. There were some fantastic tries scored, some great tries that probably shouldn't have been scored, but we let go. I can't believe you thought it was going to be a low scoring affair, Lee, as you said in the pod.
Low scoring.
This is last season was unusual for Cardiff Glasgow. It's normally quite high scoring. Sione Tuipulotu, he's fantastic, but let's be fair, he didn't have to work very hard. He just used Sheedy like a turnstile. It's just going through, and then Ben Thomas trying to cover it. I think it was a bit naive of Cardiff's defensive system to leave Sheedy on his own to take all these threats, because it's not an innovative tactic. Send your big lads at the 10. It's something that happens all the time, and unless you've got a Andre Pollard or the Dan Bigger, actually, to be fair, Sam Costello is in that bracket, who can just chop these guys down all day, you're going to get purchased. And the fact that he didn't put a back rower next to him just to help. But I think that does say about just how many threats there are on Glasgow's team. That if you focus on stopping Tuipulotu, it's out to Hugh Jones and he carts through, or it goes out wider to Josh Mackay. And we got caught. To use a liaison, we won the second half. And yes,
always important, mate. Always important.
We won the second half, but before James and Jamie pick it up, it was just the defense. Just was the one that I wouldn't say necessarily the defensive system itself is bad, but there were just too many missed tackles, one-on-one missed tackles, which means that it doesn't matter how good your defensive system is. If you're not making the tackles, your system is going to look like shit. And it was just frustrating. Going down to 14 men as well, because we killed both our hookers got killed trying to tackle. And then you could see that in those last 2 Glasgow tries, there was just nothing left in the Cardiff legs after doing so well to get back within 3. But the way I'm looking at it is, in terms of table points, we're still +7 on last season, so I'm not too worried about that.
But at one point, you were back within striking distance. You'd done all the hard work to get back, to put yourself in a position where, something could happen, and then I took my eye off the game because I was obviously watching the Scarlets game first off, and flip back, and you're like, well, what happened there? It was shocking. That last, was it 20 minutes?
I mean, I think they scored 12 points in the last 10 minutes. Like, but I said, we got it, and then it just, I said, you could just see the legs had completely gone, and that all comes down to that first half, where we just basically let them score too many points. So we gave ourselves too much of a margin. I mean, 21 points. If we come back one after that, we'd have equaled the Scarlets' record for biggest halftime deficit overcome to win a match. Like that, that's where we're looking at here. And and you could just see, like, Azarati and Domachowski got forced off injured at half time, which meant then we didn't bring our sub front row on until we had to bring them on at half time, not at 60 minutes. So again, they've had that little bit longer in the legs. We're playing against 40, with 14 again. So we're making even more tackles. And Glasgow are a team that like to keep the ball, so they will just keep running you and making you make tackles. But even then, they made more tackles than us anyway because we missed most of them. It was just, it was really frustrating to sit to. I mean, because basically it sort of meant all the hard work had been undone. And the real big worries for next week, knowing that Belcher, we don't know what the state is on Belcher and Evan Lloyd. Domachowski and Azarati potentially could be fit, but then it's like, do you really want to risk them? And then you look down our depth chart, and our squad's already looking incredibly thin. And I know Dragons are, equally dealing with injuries, as all our sides are, but we're really seeing this shortened squad thing coming to the fore now, and yeah, it's a bit worrying.
So, Jamie, can Cardiff take any positives out of that game at all?
So I have to confess, I was out on Friday night, so I didn't see the full game. I did watch the highlights on Saturday morning. The defence was pretty bad, wasn't it? I mean, that was the biggest takeaway I had when I watched that game. I mean, the tries were just too soft. Glasgow are a very good team, but there's no way Cardiff should be conceding 52 points at home like that. And, case in point with the soft tries, Tupelotu. Now, that's done the rounds on social media. And don't get me wrong, it was a very good finish. The skill, pace, and power in there. But, Sheedy getting put on his ass like that is not a good look in front of Warren Gatlin. Now, if this guy wants to get back in the Wales squad, I don't think that does his chances any good. There were just too many run-up tackles being missed and arms flapping around, and it's very strange for a Gethin Jenkins coach defence to be that bad. So I don't know why Cardiff's defence was so bad, but you can't defend like that against quality teams like Glasgow. And then you add in the injuries, which I already mentioned. So Belcher, Lloyd, Domachowski, Kieran Azaradi, all coming off injured. Were there any positives? Look, I didn't see the full game, but to me, it just seemed like a very, very bad night for Cardiff. I mean, I suppose the only positive is you did mention there they were at 1 point back in it. And that's the thing about Cardiff. They don't give up the ghost, do they? They'll keep coming back. They'll keep coming at you with tries, and they did. But then I think the game was won in the first half. From what I saw anyway, I think the damage was done with those tries in the first half. But a night to forget for Cardiff, and the injury list is building up, isn't it? So, concerning, I think, especially with Scarlets coming to town this weekend.
So, James, on that point, then what do Cardiff change for next week? Where do Cardiff go from there?
Make tackles would be nice.
Yeah,
I not feel quite smug about it because Cardiff conceded, a Welsh team conceded 50. I shouldn't be celebrating that. But I said after the Zebra game that I thought Cardiff's defence looked shaky, and everyone was like, "Oh, you're overreacting and stuff." I said the alignment looked off.
You did say that in fairness. I remember you saying that.
The one-up tackles weren't good enough. Zebra's post-contact meters were way higher than any defence should be. And that was, with all due respect, to Zebra. And then, I was vindicated Friday. Really, I think in that regard, I only take slight amount of pleasure saying it. But
his face is smiling, a slight amount of
Don't worry,
pleasure. He's smiling,
you're-
really like a Cheshire cat.
Well, no, am I wrong? Like, I was half expecting. All last year, Cardiff fans were like, "Oh, we've only had a defence coach 2 days a week. Right, he's full time now. Oh, everyone's new in the squad. You've had full pre-season and not 4.5 players like you did last year. What's the excuse now?" Sione Tuipulotu is running at Callum Sheedy like he owed him fucking money. right? That's not good enough. All for the last, and with all due respect, right? Cardiff have played two poor teams the first two games, right? But now they've played Glasgow, who are the defending champions. That's the yardstick that the the wider Irk is going to measure them against. So if you're, you know, an Irish team, or you're, even Edinburgh, someone like that, you're looking at that defense and thinking they're giving up meters, they're giving up one-up tackles. I'm gonna have a go at that. So ultimately, they need to find the spark in defense, because Scarlets will look at that and will lick their lips, like you said, Jamie. That I,
Whether
I
they can do anything about it is another story. But one thing I do want on positives, after all the complaints about De Beer missing or Sheedy missing a load of kicks, De Beer came on, nailed all of his. That was quite good. And actually, I
Well,
thought
that was my
he
next thing. It was
integrated. It
I
looked a
think
lot
Sheedy.
better.
I think Sheedy gets dropped this weekend.
Can we just give him another run out just for this weekend?
No,
Just give him the first half, see how he goes.
I think Sheedy gets dropped, and I'm probably Ali Davis as well. Actually,
This is madness, though, isn't it? Like, these two guys are talking about getting back in the Wales
Yeah,
team,
for last-
and now after just 2 rounds, a really bad night, we're saying drop Callum Sheedy, drop
but as I
Ali
said,
Davis.
they
It's crazy.
performed well against, and with all due respect, Lee, Zebra, and this current Scarlets team. It's not like you're putting 2 man of the matches against Leinster and Bulls back to back, right? That's what we've. Callum Sheedy, there's no, he struggled, right? And Ali Davis didn't have the best game either. So look, that I might be being harsh, but I called it week 1. That's all I'm going to say is I called it week 1.
You weren't the only one, because I said on week 1 Zebra made 4 breaks in the second half that they should have finished. So,
Yeah.
but
No,
I didn't want to rub it in, Harley. But yeah, let's
I mean,
let's move.
I said, if you want to talk about things that about conceding a lot of points and not scoring many, James is conveniently gone.
He knew what he was about to say. He's off.
Yeah, he's gone.
One thing I do want to say is, I don't know who the ref was for that game, but my word, was it Wild West of the breakdown. Like, it was actually funny at times, for both sides.
Well, when we get into international season, we will talk about not necessarily the refereeing standards, but the consistency in between games. It isn't.
I would like to say he was completely consistent and fair to both sides. But it was anything goes, and I haven't seen a new ref come on like that. I haven't seen a ref like that since Roman Poit. Where it's just like, yeah, sure, go for it.
Go for it. But then what I mean is in between games. So are they reffing Cardiff the same way they ref in Ospreys Munster? We'll get on to Ospreys Munster in a minute.
Just to say, the referee was Monet Ferreira. I think he's a South African referee.
He made his debut.
Yeah.
And saying referees are same as players, they've got to start somewhere at that level, haven't they? So
he was a Currie Cup referee, I believe.
Okay.
That explains quite a lot.
Right, let's move on before we get ourselves into trouble again. Let's discuss Scarlets and Connaught, who were on very conveniently at the same time as Cardiff and Glasgow last Friday, which, I mean, at least nobody was clashing with Strictly, so I could multi-screen and the wife wasn't too annoyed. So we lost that game in the first 10 minutes and the last 2, and everything else in between was actually half decent. The attitude was there. Once we got our kind of heart rate back down, the composure returned and we started to show what we could do. What I was impressed with is that we actually defended lineouts, which, as you know, I've been saying for 2 seasons. If we're going to sort one thing out, can we just defend in close? Work out how to defend in close. I will say I had to delete a tweet because I put out during that game, and the first couple of minutes of that game, at last we've learned how to defend in tight. What I actually printed was we've learned how to defend in tights, which was a very different tweet.
I mean, considering
And,
some of your backs, I'm not surprised.
That's why I had
You're
to
watching
delete
too
that
much
one.
Strictly. You were.
But yeah, the when you look at how we have been playing to where we are now, yeah, okay, those results aren't there, but it's if we keep playing the way we're playing, it's around the corner. And
Oh, please keep playing the way you're playing, please.
but confidence breeds success, mate. And we will get, we threw one stupid pass that didn't go to how he could have quite comfortably taken that into touch, given them a line out, and then I know that would have been their first line out and what have you. So, but we defended line outs on our own 5 yards for the rest of the game. So, it's having that confidence to go, it's okay. I'm going to run it into touch on my own 5 yard line. It's things like that come from confidence that it's okay. We can cope with that. There were a couple of issues. The kicking out of hand wasn't great. We were 10 meters short on every kick that should have got into the corner, and when we're trying to attack from the 22, it's bits like that that you can tweak. We're at a place now where actually we've worked really hard to get to a place where we can compete, and we should have won that game. We really should have won that game again. So we're 3 games into the season. We probably should have beaten Benetton. We should have beaten Connaught. And you said it with your review of the Dragons, Jane, where at some point you turn the small losses into small wins, and then you turn the small wins into bigger wins. And we're in a similar boat that you can feel it there. I think there are some Scarlets fans who are just never going to be happy unless we win a European Cup. I got news for them. We're a couple of seasons away, but
a couple,
about 5
maybe a
million
bit more.
A couple of dozen.
No, I mean it's given where we are, we've done 2 seasons of rebuilding. We've had players out like you go. We at the minute, touch wood, our injury list is nothing like what you guys are. But last season we were absolutely 20 players, and we have more players on the injury list than we did off the injury list. So yeah, I was wound up on Friday night because I thought we'd thrown it away, and I thought that was a game that we could have won and should have won. But looking at it after, you kind of go, a couple of decisions go a different way. That last one where he gives him coming in offside, the bit that really annoyed me was there was a line out that we threw over the back, and it was 20 odd meters, and even on 20 odd meters, it was maybe half a yard to us, but it wasn't like anybody was competing. And then the ref blows. We run a lovely little move off the back of the line out. I think Johnny Williams takes it, draws the first man, pops inside, and I think it was Josh McLeod was inside him. Josh McLeod, a fantastic game. First half, he was outstanding. But the referee goes, "Oh, not straight," and then he says the touch judge called it, and then the touch judge went, "Not me." And both touch judges go, "No, that wasn't me." And he goes, "Well, somebody called it." It just didn't sit well with anyone. And that,
I would just have to point out, someone replied to your tweet saying he was in line with it and said it wasn't straight, so it wasn't like it was a dodgy call.
Yeah, but it wasn't like massively over, and it was 20 meters beyond it wasn't like it was being competed for. So when it passes the 15, when it passes the 15, as long as when it passes the 15, it has to be in that. So I thought that was harsh, and the fact that he said the ref said that somebody else called it, not him, and everyone else went, "No, it's not me." So that kind of irked me a little. But on the whole, I thought we played well. Yeah, given how the Cardiff game went last week, and compare them to us, yeah, quite confident going into this weekend. But then, same as when Ospreys go and play Munster after Munster just lost to Zebra, that's almost like the worst time to play them. So yeah, could go both ways.
I think that you lost the key moments, right? And you lost because it's all well and good playing well for the 70, 80 minutes, right? But you lose the key moments, you're going to lose a game, right? So Johan Nicholas throws that pass in
Yeah.
field. They score, right? Tom Rogers, for me, rightly gets yellow carded for just a brain fart of a move.
I got a
No,
point on
no,
that.
no, no, no,
Yeah,
no. I
I'll
know
come
what
back
point
to
you're
it in
going
a
to
minute.
make, but he was rightly yellow carded, right? He was,
Well,
right?
he'd already touched the ball, so he wasn't preventing
No,
the
no,
line.
no. It's not that he touched the ball, right? He denied giving Connacht the ball back.
Ball's on the floor.
It wasn't on the floor. It was in his hand.
It was
Stop
on the
arguing
floor.
with me,
It was on the
right?
floor.
No, right. It was rightly a yellow card, right? You give up an 80-meter try. From that really realistic should have been a routine exit for Connacht. Then last was it? Obviously, we talked about Costello throws that intercept, right? That should never have been thrown. He drops the high, and there's not me singling out, it's just key moments. He drops that high ball, and then Marnus van der Merwe, agent Marnus van der Merwe, come home soldier, goes in for that second bite of that jackal. Right, so them key moments, right, are the small things that you need to work on to win, right? It's keeping your and I don't think either team played well, to be honest. I think, but they both had individuals that had good games. I don't think either team played well enough to say they were outright winners. But Connacht just won them key moments.
The difference is we've gone from having to work on big things to having to work on small.
Yeah, and it will come. It pains me to say it will come. Whether it's this season, right, is another thing. But there are signs there. But ultimately, you have to win the key moments. Don't whinge to me about the Tom. I'm not entertaining the Tom.
I'm going to ask Jamie for his opinion, mate. So,
didn't watch it. He was out. He was out on the piss.
Yeah.
Again, I was out. I did see highlights. It's not like I haven't seen anything. I just haven't seen the full game. Not much to add. Well, you guys saying, the key moments, the errors. I mean, now Johan Nicholas one was pretty bad, and it's a shame because I like Johan Nicholas. He's a very reliable player. You don't normally make bad mistakes like that. To see, he was a bit of a shame, really. But I actually think Scars can take a lot of heart from that performance, though. There's no shame in losing to Connacht. That was a very strong Connacht side that travelled down the park. Scars. They were big favourites going into that game. And I thought the Scars, they battled really hard. And it's a shame that penalty from Van der Merwe, that was the deciding moment. But I actually think the Scars can go into Cardiff with a bit more optimism,
Well, that was going to be my wrap-up question to you, Harley. I mean, I'm assuming that you were watching the Cardiff game while I was watching the Scarlets game. Yep. So, and then you kind of flip over and watch the other one. So I'm quite positive going to Cardiff. From a Cardiff point of view, are you looking forward to Scarlets coming? Given you beat us 2 weeks ago, are you looking forward to it?
I always look forward to Pontcanna emptying in a sea of red to fill up half of cap. I mean, to be honest, I didn't want to talk about that. There's one thing I want to talk about really from that game, and it's Josh McLeod's player of the match photo. Because he looks like someone has found a homeless crack addict on the street and given him a medal in a Scarlets jersey. What the fuck is up with that look? I know he's just lost a game and heartbreaking thing, but wow. I mean, I think James put the best one. He said it looks like someone's photoshopped Mart onto a Scarlets player.
It does. He looks like Mart. I genuinely think
genuinely, they look like they could be brothers.
I'll tell him that.
Richie Reese had probably stitched him up with that man of the match, so didn't he?
Yeah.
But to be fair, I think he won 3 outright turnovers.
No, I'm not saying he deserves it. I just mean he's probably stitched him up. I
don't think it's quite the Joe Launchbury 2015 stitch up, to be fair.
So anyway, are you looking forward to Scarlets coming, or are you a little bit worried?
I'm always worried about when we play Scarlets because even when we beat you the other week, I didn't think we were going to win, and I'm still not entirely sure we're going to win, even though I've predicted it. It's I don't know what it is like because I think Cardiff and Scarlets play quite similarly. It only takes us to have a lapse of concentration, and Scarlett suddenly put 12-15 on us, like very much like that first 10 minutes. And I don't think Cardiff have gotten rid of those lapses of concentration, and I think it showed very much against you in that first. It showed against Zebra in the second half. showed a lot in Glasgow alongside poor tackling. Where I think sometimes just players just not fully thinking of what they're supposed to do.
Okay.
I mean, I'm hoping that after that Glasgow game, it's a wake up. The question is, and something James pointed out when the teams got announced, a lot of Cardiff players have played a lot of minutes now already because our squad has already gone thin. Because it's like we were talking about on Cardiff Central last week. You can't really swap anyone out because there's no one there to swap out. Like we can bring, you could bring in a Will Davis King for Azarati. You could bring Danny Southworth in for Azarati. We've got Evan Daniels and bloody hell, Dav Howells. I always forget the ex-Scarlet hooker we've got on our books. Dav Hughes, that's one. I forget he exists. He's like my wife's cousin's husband. I just forget. I can never remember his name. I can't actually tell you what he looks like. It's just one of those things. He's literally just like a blank face. But yeah, I am a little bit worried. But I am hoping it ends up being the way Cardiff Scarlets game seems to go, which is the team that seems to play better loses.
That makes absolutely no fucking sense at all, Harley.
Yeah, no, this is what we're talking Welsh derbies here. Nothing
on.
makes sense. It's an upside down world. Dragons look on their own course to win the Welsh Shield and yet somehow finish 15th this season. It's just got that feeling in the season.
Well, let's talk about for me the Welsh game of the weekend, which was Dragon Sharks, because I thought you were fantastic.
What a game!
How was it for you, Jamie?
Do you know, I'm still feeling pretty flat about it. I got mixed feelings about this. So on the one hand, I'm really proud of our performance. I thought we were excellent for a lot of that game. I thought our defense was really, really good. I'm pleased with how we stay in the fight now in games when momentum swings the other way. So when the Sharks had all momentum, now Dragons teams in the past, heads would have dropped. It would have been game over. We got a lot more fight and spirit about this now. I think our physicality has really improved, thanks to guys like Shane Lewis-Hughes, who I thought was absolutely outstanding. I thought he might have had player of the match, but they gave it to Tane Basham. I understand why, because Tane was terrific on his return, but I thought Shane Lewis-Hughes was outstanding. I thought the pack put in a really good shift. I thought Carter and Screech were brilliant, played the full 80. Half-time, well, I mean, just before half-time, I was in dreamland, 22-5 up. I was like, here we go, this is going to be great. But that killer moment for me was that try just before halftime, because it really did suck the momentum. Even though we went into the sheds at 22-12, that shouldn't have happened. We just needed to hold out there for another couple of more minutes. Harry Wilson misses a tackle. And to be fair, it was a good team try by the Sharks, but we conceded right on the stroke of halftime. It was a bad time to concede. And I felt that at halftime we needed to come out firing because they had all the momentum, the Sharks, and then we concede those 2 tries. And then it looks like it's getting away from us again. But credit to the players, they fronted up, they fought hard to come back into it. And, I thought we were going to win. I was gutted. I honestly thought our defence in those last few minutes, 20 phases, the Sharks went through to get over the line. I thought we were going to hold out. But I think the problem was we were giving away so many penalties, and it got to the stage where Andrew Brace just wasn't going to give us anything. I thought we used all our get out of jail cards. And the problem with Andrew Brace is once you get on the wrong side of him, he's very, very difficult to win back on side again. So when they were going through those phases, part of me did think, they're just going to crash over you. But to concede in the 85th minute like that is a sickener, And it's the other side of the coin, isn't it? Because against the Ospreys, we won in the 84th minute. Now it's happened the other way, and it's gutting. When you're so close to winning a game and you lose like that in the last minute, and you've played well, you've given everything, it's absolutely gutting. But, I thought there was some excellent individual performances. Like I said, Tane Basham was terrific on his return. Shane Lewis-Hughes, again, can't speak highly of him. I think he's been reborn since he come to the Dragons. I'd love to see him get a shot in the Wales squad, whether he will or not, I don't know, but I think he's been brilliant for us. Screech and Carter were great. Brodie Coughlin, I think, is really impressed with me. He's stood up now when Elliot D has been out injured, and I like to see him as well get a shot for Wales, whether he will or not, I'm not sure. But and now even though win and Rodri Williams again. When I see Roger Williams play like that, I think, why hasn't he had more Wales caps? I thought he was brilliant. And I would have actually kept him on. I think it was a mistake to take him off at that point because I don't think Dane Blacker made the impact that we needed him to have. I thought Roger was excellent. His kick it out of hand as well, same with Angus O'Brien. But it's a difficult one to take because, we got 2 match points, so that's not to be sniffed at. But we should have been 5 points. So it's a difficult one. Although I'm pleased and I'm proud of that performance, and the players gave everything, it does feel like a missed opportunity. And I think that's what's really hard to take, the fact that this is a game that could have and should have been won. So, it's difficult. I'm still stewing on it, to be honest. But we have to lick our wounds. So we go again on Sunday when we got the Lions coming to town.
So, Harley, I was going to ask you about Ben Carter. So, newly made captain. So how old is he, James? Is he 23, 24?
Or is he a bit older?
23, 24, I think, yeah.
Yeah, he's not old. So how much impact do you think, Harley, that Carter's had? Because I saw him do a couple of things in that game that I thought that's quite mature. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, I've always rated Carter quite highly. I think I've always thought he should be in the round the Wales thing. He's a fantastic player. I mean, is he the best second row in the world? No. Is he a fantastic, is he a top international quality second row? Yes. I think he's brilliant. I know it's a bit of a tough pack in order to get in outside of the Jenkins, Beard, Rowlands axis in Wales, but he's excellent. His carrying seems to be getting on. He's got a breakdown threat now, which I think wasn't really there last season. I saw him get a couple of good turnovers, fantastic ruck time. His line-out calling's pretty decent as well. He's pretty much a complete package what you want in a lock. So, Q Gatlin picking him at 8 and ruining his career.
Putting him in the inside centre.
I think he's taken the some players captaincy weighs on them too heavily and it diminishes from their game. Others, it takes him up to another level, and I think for Carter, it is just helping him take that level. He's taken it upon himself to move. But I think one thing that's helping is in that vanguard action, he's not on his own. Where sometimes in the Dragons, you'll have one player who's constantly trying to do everything, and there's no one there to back him up. Whereas I think now you've got players like Shane Lewis-Hughes, who, to quote from to basically paraphrase from Gav on Dragon's Lair. He is a bastard. I fucking love him for it. He is an absolute bastard nuisance.
He's a lovable bastard.
He's a lovable bastard. I mean, I really rate him highly. I've always loved him. I didn't want him to go, but I got why he was going, why he went to the Dragons. I said, and there's one thing, again, Gav picked it up, but I think was it Dragons knocked the ball on or something, or they turned over, whatever. And, the Sharks players are trying to give Shane Lewis-Hughes some jip. And he just stands there and laughs, and it just completely from what started off as them trying to wind him up and get reaction. He just laughed and wound them up, and you're like, well, the ref's never going to have a go at him for laughing. But there was a part of me that went, if this was any ref other than Brace, some of them are very, all right, that's dissent, but I'll turn the penalty over, I'll reverse it. I was just like, he's really getting into player skin, and I think he's exactly what Wales need as a 6. He's horrible bastard. He's a line-out jumper. He's quite athletic.
Just to add one thing,
I forgot to add some nastiness, which is something that I wish he had more of a chance to do. And what else? Talking about Dragon. I think Dyflan was talking about getting back to the Gwent Valley's tradition of just having big, horrible forwards. I think he's epitomising that, and it's weird how he's sort of found his real home now. He's left Cardiff, which. I'll be honest, one of the big criticisms in our pack is usually a bit too nicey nice.
No, he's been brilliant. The one thing I would like to add, though, is Dragons did miss 10 points from the tee. And Lloyd Evans, I think the jury, it is, and I think the jury is still out on Lloyd Evans as a 10. It was very telling that Will Reid came off the bench and had to take over kicking duties. And Will Reid's goal kicking is a work in progress as well. I think we need to see a little bit more from Lloyd Evans. I am slightly concerned about his goal kicking because it hasn't been particularly great. It wasn't good against Ospreys. He missed a couple of easy ones against Leinster. And again, he missed kicks that really should have been scored. And those 10 points, they've pretty much cost us the game as well. So, they weren't all his 10 points. Will Reid did miss one in front of the post, but that was from a a longer distance. But I am concerned about the goal kicking of Lloyd. I
I
think
think
that
that's
has
the
to
thing
improve.
across Wales at the moment. The goal kicking is, with the exception of, say, probably Dan Edwards, the goal kicking is just not great.
I'm gonna say Ospreys are fine to include us in this thing. We didn't score
Yeah,
any
no,
of the
but
weekend,
as
so
you
we
keep
haven't
telling
missed
us,
You
any.
didn't get a
Ospreys players
choice.
don't play for Wales,
Yeah.
so it's an
Yeah,
irrelevant
don't
conversation.
tarnish us with your shit brushes.
So, James, I was going to ask you about some dragon stuff, but we're running over already. So let's
There's nothing more to
talk
be said.
Ospreys
Dragons were
Munster.
good.
Yeah.
They'll learn from that.
So let's talk Ospreys Munster. How, if that game was on a grass pitch, that would have been called off without a doubt 10 minutes before.
Yeah, the images we saw, for those who didn't see, RT put out a little video before the game, and there were puddles on the foot. Not even puddles. They were like small lakes on the pitch. They were literally physically having to be brushed off. Yeah. So weather was, Cardiff would have had a hernia if they'd had to play in that.
I was going to say the game definitely would have been on if it was at the Brewery Field.
What do you say? Lee, do you remember the last time Ospreys were nilled?
No, enlighten me, mate.
Boxing Day 2019, 44-0 against the Scarlets.
Wow.
I believe it's only the fifth. It's only the fifth time, or it's either the fifth or seventh time since 2003 the Ospreys have failed to score a point. Look, we did not play well. Let's get that out of the way first. We didn't play well. I thought we were toothless in attack. There are reasons behind that I'm sure we're about to talk about. Look, it happened last year against Munster as well. We had no luck. There is an element of luck in rugby, right? We didn't get the bounce of the ball. You don't get things that go your way, right? And when that's mixed in with a bad performance, everything just comes up like that. I'm not as angry at the performance as some people were, because I genuinely don't think you can read too much into it. Like, Christ, Tom Boata had a visa issue and couldn't play.
Is that why he got pulled?
That's why he couldn't play. Because obviously he'd have to go in on a work visa, and it obviously didn't
quid
get
for every time a Wales prop, a Welsh team prop got pulled from a team because of a visa issue. I'd have £2, but it's weird. It's happened twice in 2 weeks.
But it's things like that. And look, we came up against Munster at the wrong time. They're a wounded animal who played the conditions perfectly. Like, I'm not angry at the performance. I'm angry at the external factors around everything. And I'm going to talk about Mike Adamson. I genuinely thought he was horrific.
Okay, can we use the word allegedly and apparently quite a lot in the next little bit then, just to be safe?
Okay, allegedly he's an awful referee.
I genuinely thought he was great last weekend. I thought he had a very good game, and he was let down by his touches and the TMO. But this game, I think the TMO was allegedly having a nap somewhere.
So we've
up since 3 in the morning.
We've all seen the clip, right? Off kickoff, Yeston Hopkins takes the ball and is clattered by Shane McCarthy. Now, at the time, Mike Adamson said chest, and allegedly the thing was cleared by the TMO, but that was, to my knowledge, that was never communicated to the players, like on TMO mic, that we could hear, or on ref mic, sorry. That was a stonewall red card. He came from distance, there was no wrap, he's made contact with the head, right? And the fact that it's not even, he's not even looked at, right, is a fucking disgrace. Ospreys would not have won that game with Munster having 4 men on the pitch, right? We wouldn't have been able to score. But, it wasn't picked up on. And that's genuinely, it's saddening. I'm really glad it's being called out by Wales Online. Ben James, in 2 separate articles, has called it out for what it is disgraceful refereeing, allegedly. But then just also the breakdown. You thought the Cardiff game had a shambles of a breakdown. Wait until you see this game, because Munster were able to get away with murder. And then Tyke Byrne, the way he spoke to Adamson was either in his face or like he was his old mate. Things like giving Jean Klein 3 warnings for swimming up a mall or going around the side of a mall and then penalising him. I was listening to the S4C English commentary, and Dave Rogers and Alex Cuthbert were genuinely speechless at times. And you could see Jack Morgan getting visibly frustrated because he was just getting nothing out of Mike Adamson. So look, it's a combination of, we weren't great, but equally we weren't given the opportunity to be great by the referee team.
The bit allowed about Tad Byrne was that through large parts of that game, he was an absolute wrecking ball at rucks legally. So when he does come in and do the illegal stuff, he gets the benefit of the doubt.
Can you just remind me who Tyke Byrne's former club was, Lee, and why?
Yeah, no, he never did that with us. He walked down with a halo when he was us.
Yeah, exactly.
But because he's done a lot of damage, and the ref then doesn't go, oh, on this occasion he's come round us. There were some times he came in like virtually on the Ospreys side and didn't get pinged. And the amount of times that players went over the top of the ball and sealed off was just it was ridiculous, and it wasn't called once. Ospreys did it once and got pinged. So
allegedly.
No, that's a fact. They got pinged for that.
Oh, that's a fact, is it? Right.
That's a fact. It's when you say he's a shit referee, allegedly. That's the bit where we need to be careful.
The other way, and if you don't want to use allegedly, you can go, in my personal semi-educated opinion, with my doctorate and nothing to do with rugby, Mike Addison is an incredibly weak personality, and I think he can get bullied and swayed by a stronger personality ref, whereas Jack Morgan's quite respectful with when his interactions with referees. Tyke Byrne's a bit more imposing, and I think that just
now I realise why Justin Tipuric was left at home, because he would have punched him out.
So
next time, just make get Brad Davis out of retirement. Say, Bridgend can cope without you, and just have him for just 5 minutes with that. A bit like
when he was brought into the World Cup squad to just fight Uruguay in 2015.
Yeah,
if Bradley Davis came down, he'd have to go through Saunders' foot and he'd get arrested again. So, Jamie, your neutral opinion on Ospreys and Munster on the weekend?
It will shock you to learn that I didn't see the full game, because I was at the game at Rodney Parade. I come home late. I did see the second half. It was just one-way traffic. I thought it was boring, actually. I thought Munster just suffocated Ospreys. And I got to be honest, I was flitting in and out the kitchen making a cup of tea and some toast because I was pretty bored. That's all I got to say about it. Although I do agree with James. I mean, the Mike Adamson stuff, this is just URC refereeing, isn't it? And how many times have I complained about the standard of officiating in this league? It's always been poor, and it's not getting any better. This is just another incident, because I guarantee next week there'll be another incident we'll be talking about, and the week after that will be another incident.
It's like when we've spoken about this with teams. If 2 seasons ago, where Scarlets just had yellow cards like confetti, and it becomes that mindset then, doesn't it? And that's where referees almost are now as a whole, where people are looking for errors. And they might play 79 minutes and not get a single thing wrong, and they get that one call wrong on 80 minutes, and that's all that people talk about. So, my opinion, as I've said before, is referees are human, but TMOs are where the issue actually is, because the TMO should be there to support, and it completely backs up what you were saying, James, about that TMO should have come in and said, hang on a second, we need to go back and review this. There were a couple of times in the the Scarlets Connacht game as well where you go like, hang on a second, that's what the TMO is there for, and it's just not happening. So for me, we've gone too far. Well, not getting the TMO to back up the referee on that.
Yeah.
Go on, Harley. You were
One thing. So everyone pretty much agrees that the best standard refereeing is in the English Premiership. Regardless of what you think of the competition.
Well, Gavin did last night when I spoke about Il Dragon Slayer. He said it's a refereeing problem across the board.
I would say that it's not the best standard of ref. I think it's the best referees individually on a test level. I don't think the standard of refereeing in the Premiership is any more.
But one thing that they've done, and I think the URC needs to take a leaf out of his book, is you have a referee, TMO, 2 touch judges, and they may rotate round, and a different one will ref, different one TMO will go on. But you've got the same unit of 4 working together, so they know. So everyone knows if you're on your touchline, this is the thing the ref wants you to look at. When you're refing, you know that you can rely on your touch judges to look at this. You know your TMO's looking in the background for this, that, and the other, and you work a report, and it works really well. I find in the URC it chops and changes a lot, and although we've got neutral ref and TMO, it's usually local touch judges.
Yeah,
and they're always, it's always different. We go back to the Dragon Leinster game, and I have no idea how the touch judge saw grounding from halfway across the pitch. But that's bygones. I do genuinely think we need to say, like, these are your refereeing teams. So say you get 1 Scottish one, 1 Italian team, ref officiating team, 2 South Africans, 2 Welsh team thing, just because of the number of teams in it. Because in theory, that's enough to cover derbies, and you should never have there should never be a fixture where you're going to have non-neutrals. And they work as a team. They work and they go around as units.
The nature of the IRC means that's not it. That's not possible.
The big problem is that because there is not all the refs are full time, which is where again the nature of the IRC, it becomes a bit of an issue. But
we will park it there and come back and talk about referees, like Jamie said, with regular occurrence in the future, no doubt. So before I'm gonna move on and introduce a new little element to this week. So what we need to do, okay, we're going to put this on socials now for tomorrow. We're going to nominate Player of the Week from one of the games that we've seen, and more than likely be your home team, but pick a Player of the Week that you thought was outstanding, and then we'll justify it and then just put it on socials tomorrow, and there'll be a 4-way vote. Pick your player between the 4 players that we put and how we justify it tonight. So I'll go first just to give you an idea of where we are. Okay, so yeah, Josh McLeod got man of the match in the Scarlet game, but for me, Max Douglas was absolutely outstanding. Chased down a Connacht winger, 20 meters across the pitch, chased him down, collared him, picked him up, dragged him back 5 meters and turned the ball over at a point where we'd lost the ball inside their 22. They were running it out from their 22, and he collared him and dragged him back in. And it just said to me, do you know what? There's a guy that's joined us not long ago, and it just like that's the heart that you need from a second row to chase down Mac Hansen and drag him back 5 meters. That's what I want to see from my second row. So my nomination for Scarlet's Player of the Week last week was Max Douglas, because he was an absolute animal in that little bit there. So, Jamie, you pick a player from the Dragons.
Well, Tane Basham was the official player of the match, but I'm going to give it to Shane Lewis-Hughes purely because his work at the breakdown, the turnovers, the work he got through the grunt allowed Tane Basham to do what he did. And like I said, I think he's been a revelation since he moved to Rodney Parade. He was excellent. So I am going to give it to Shane Lewis-Hughes this week. Okay.
So we got Max Douglas, Shane Lewis-Hughes. James, can you pick anybody out of that game?
No. But
you just ruined my new feature, mate.
Well, I did tell you pre-recording. You could have done this last week. I'll give it to James Ratty because he's just again a workhorse. Actually, no, I'll give it to Dewi Lake because in a game that could have gone awry with lineouts, he was 100%. And top carrier, made his tackles, didn't miss one. So I still think he's Wales captain. So
Okay.
Dewi
So
Lake.
we got Shane Lewis, who's work rate. We've got Max Douglas chasing down winger. We've got Dewi Lake's line out, and Harley. We've got.
Do you want a serious one or do you want a joke one?
you put forward anybody that you want to back
I'm
in a
going to put
public
forward
vote.
Dan Thomas.
Just to
Partially
annoy
because
Irish
actually his performances on the field and the fact that he just does not give up and he is just an absolute cunt at ruck time. But mostly because Jamie Dobby goes to box kick, he lets go of the ball, and as such, he can be pushed out of the way because you can push a player out of the way if you're genuinely making an attempt to go for the ball. And then he scores a try from it, and the referee just goes, it's fine, the ball's out. And the real reason I want to make this my moment of the week and my player of the week is just because the amount of piss on a rolling boil from Glasgow fans just is making me happy and is the only highlight out of that game.
And I've already had that on the rewind.
I've heard.
Yeah, it's right. So we've got Dan Thomas's playground push on the scrum half to score as well. So what we will do is we will put them out on socials tomorrow morning, and everyone can vote. And we will come back next week and let everyone know who our.
Full disclosure, I'm voting for Shane O'Hughes on that one.
I'm going to try and get some clips. That's what I'm going to try and do. I'm going to try and get the clips. So get the Max Douglas clip. Get the it'll be easy to get the Dan Thomas clip because Glasgow fans. There's a lot of Glasgow fans who've got that saved on their phones. So that's what we'll try and do. So we'll quickly move on to previews in a second. So if you are liking and enjoying what you are hearing and seeing, please do give us a rate and subscribe to us on YouTube. We're nearly at 700 on YouTube, which, yay, well done us. But if you do, that'll be really fantastic. It helps what we're trying to do. Loads of stuff in the pipeline that we're trying to do and we're trying to make happen. And it's all about how we get fans more involved in what we do and in what clubs do. So if you can help us along that journey, that will be really, really good. So let's look at games coming this weekend. So let's start with Cardiff Scarlets. Let's do it the other way around. I mean, you can go first, Harley. We pretty much discussed it anyway, but what are you expecting this weekend?
Honestly, I have no idea. Because we're doing this early, we have no idea how the injuries this. I think, as you said, Scarlet's pretty unscathed, so I imagine it'll be about the same team that start. That's how, let's be said, the only real improvement I would make for that team is bringing Joe Robertson, and you can't because he's injured, which is a great way to start off as being the next Foxy, to be honest. I don't think it's any secret that this pod is very much a Joe Roberts at 13 pod. So I think we'll agree he's probably the best prospect we've seen him forever. I think Cardiff are going to be hurting from that game. I'm hoping that they are getting beasted. They're going to get talked. I think a lot of players need rest. The question is do we have the quality in these second level of players to hold up and keep that consistency in the performance? Because yes, right, we got well beaten by the reigning champs, but now's the time where we say, well, if we think we're better than the Scarlets, we've got to prove it now. Because beating them at theirs is one thing; we've got to beat them on our own match now. And I can see it being a fairly similar game to last time, where one team will have ascendancy and then the other one will have their ascendancy. And the question is who's going to handle those periods better? Our Scarlets are actually going to finish those opportunities because they did create a lot.
So I'm kind of a little bit nervous for the same reason when Ospreys went to Munster. When a side gets a kick in, it can go one of two ways. It can either really get people together and focus on, let's do this, let's make a big effort, or it can completely destroy the confidence. And I hope it's the latter for this week, and then you pick up after. Because Scarlets just desperately need to get that win now. We, say coming close on 2 out of the 3 games, it isn't helping. If anything, it's making it worse. It's just getting over that line. I think it's pretty much where it was at the start of the game in terms of selection. I think Lousy just coming back from injury and was probably only 50% match fit. So I can see him probably doing 50, 60 minutes and then coming off, but then you bring in Alex Craig on and you've got Max Douglas on there. That's a pretty shit hot group of second rows. Plumtree was outstanding again. McLeod was outstanding. And you've got players, McLeod coming back from injury, Dan Davis coming back from injury, probably not up to the full 80 minutes, and are pretty much getting there now. So I can see a 6-2 split on the bench just to support that, and I just hope that Costello has a decent game. I was kicking out of hand. He doesn't need to have an amazing game. He just needs to have a solid game where nothing goes wrong. He doesn't fuck anything up, and he'll be fine. You can kick on from there. So yeah, it'll be close. It always is. I'm hoping to see a couple of handbags every now and again, because I think that kind of stoked the Dragons last week. When you see a little bit of handbags, then you know that you're doing something right. But I still think we'll come away with a win. But we'll do predictions in a moment. Right, James, you entertain the Bulls on Saturday, 7:35. S4C?
Yeah, S4C.
Yeah, I got it right.
Because we're the only one on that time slot. So,
yeah,
I'm going to this one. It's my birthday that day as well. So, yeah, I'm looking. Bulls played well against Ulster. All depends what touring party they bring over, because they did bring Box back, but whether they'll make them tour is another thing entirely. We've never beaten the Bulls, but at home it has always been somewhat of an entertaining game. Yeah, we just what I'm really looking for is a reaction to last week. That's all I'm looking for, is a reaction. What form that reaction takes is up to the players. I'll take a gritty win. I'll take a gritty loss, really. But as long as there's a distinct reaction, I assume we'll be back up to full strength. So you get your Gareth Thomas's back in. Tom Boat obviously won't have an issue. You bring Ratty back into second row. You bring Tipuric back into that team. Kieran start. So, just one reaction. That's all. I'm looking forward to it. I do like it when the Bulls come over, but whether they'll bring, your Curtly Aarons's and all these types of players over is another thing entirely. Shout out to the Ospreys in the community. It's their 10-year anniversary celebration on that game as well, and they do great work. So yeah, just looking forward to the game. It'll be a good one.
Okay. Did we ask how old you are? I'm putting you at about 24.
Oh, you flatter me. I'll be 27 on Saturday. And I feel every single one of them.
You sweet summer child.
Okay. You wait till you get to 48, mate. Well,
that's why people love me. It's the youthfulness, the good looks, the impartiality.
The good looks.
Right, you've got about one of those three.
Yeah. Right. Sunday game, Jamie, Dragons against Lions. It's on BBC One, BBC One Wales.
Yes.
BBC One Wales is a weird one.
It is.
I don't know why it's on BBC One.
It's like Songs of Praise cancelled or something.
I have no idea, but yeah, we're on BBC One. We're prime time, bitches. That's what we are now.
Blumberg's put a bit of money in there, isn't he?
Yeah, we're BBC One. We're big time.
So, I mean, there is a hardcore of Dragons fans that don't like going to games on a Sunday, but there's hardcore of Dragons fans that just don't like going to games. So what are you looking forward to in this one, mate?
Well, I think this is going to be a tougher challenge actually than the Sharks. So I watched the Lions Edinburgh game. I mean, I still can't work out whether Lions were that good or whether Edinburgh were that bad. Maybe it's a bit of both, but they're a joy to watch and attack, the Lions, and they. I mean, 48-0 at half time, which is a league record, by the way. They cut Edinburgh to shreds. Absolute shred. Their attack is brilliant. They got such a dangerous backline, and they've got really good players. And I know they're the weakest South African franchise, but they're still a bloody good team. You know, Max Rane, Horn, Pretorius, Van der Merwe. These are bloody good players. And if the Dragons end on it, or there's any defensive lapses, they will tear us apart. I'm actually quite worried about this one. I'm more worried about this than I was against the Sharks. But we may have a bit of bad luck on the injury news. I mean, we got 17 players out already, but we should have Leon Brown back because he fell ill, unfortunately, last week. So he should be back. Hoping to have Steve Cummins back, which would be really good. I had no idea about Kai Evans, but Angus O'Brien failed a HIA on Saturday. And we know Di Flanagan is really shit hot on these concussion protocols, rightly so. But if he's out, that's going to be a big blow. So Evo will put you and Rosser a full back. What I would do actually if I was Di Flanagan, I'd have Lloyd Evans at 15 and I'd have Will Reid at 10. That's how I'd go into the game if Angus isn't available. But I'm looking forward to it, but I am worried because, like I said, I love watching the Lions. I think they're so good in attack. They're a really exciting team, but they can really punish you if you have an off day. But it's a Sunday afternoon. And look, I don't mind Sunday afternoons. I do understand why a lot of drag sports don't like Sunday afternoons. My dad don't like it because he has to drive. Because the Valley buses on a Sunday are just hopeless. Well, we know public transport in Wales isn't great on the best of times, but on a Sunday, if you're from the the Gwent Valleys, it's pretty difficult. But I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, it's a very good game, and we get that elusive win against one of the big four South Africans, which we haven't managed to do yet. So see what happens.
So you think your public transport's better? You want to try going from Pembrokeshire to a Scarlets game, and you get to the train station, and you look on the timetable, and it says Tuesday, and
No. It said see you next Tuesday. You just turned to read the other bit. That's all.
That wasn't the timetable. That was just someone who knows you.
That was just a bloke from Pembrokeshire.
Right, Harley, do you want to do predictions, mate? You take us through predictions, and we'll wrap it up there, mate. All yours.
So just in the league, thanks to Jamie not submitting any predictions, I put him as he's predicted Scarlets, Cardiff and Munster by 100. He did say on the Dragons layer that Dragons by 2, so I put that one in. That has skewed things. So if anyone doesn't put the predictions in, it will be the home team by 100 points. Which I'll be honest, if it's Leinster, actually, you probably end up coming out on top.
What referee school did you go to, man? Because that's harsh. That's yellow cards all over the place for not putting your predictions in. That is. Right, let's crack on.
Just straight up the full-on COVID walkover stuff thing. Yeah, so as per, I'm the lead. Lee's second, not far behind. Then it's James and Jamie. Anyway, so starting off, I'll just run through mine, just get through. I've picked Cardiff by 8 for vibes, Ospreys by 1, and Dragons by 3 because why not? Lee, let's hear your prediction for the derby.
Okay, Scarlets by 12. I've got Bulls by 5 and Dragons by 2.
Like it. James?
Cardiff by 5. Not Scarlets. That would be impossible. Dragons by 2. And then Ospreys by 3.
Cool. Did I just say 3 of you? Because I'm guessing you're going to stick with what you said on Dragons Lair, Jane, with Dragons by 2.
Dragons by 1, I said, for this game.
Huh? Dragons by 1?
Yeah, I did a lead G and said Dragons by 1.
It's catching.
One of my other predictions said I got Scarlets by 6. If Bulls bring a full strength squad over, I'm going Bulls by 4. And Dragons by 1.
I think
I said it was going to be a weird situation where three of you had the exact same prediction.
Yeah, you're either going to do really well or not very well at all on that game, are we? I think, what's his name? Franco, what's his name? The Glasgow coach.
Smith.
Franco Smith.
Yeah. So he said just how competitive this is after giving Cardiff an absolute battering. But he said how competitive this league is at the minute, where, you know, anyone at the top can play anyone at the bottom and you still don't know who's going to win. And, you know, full credit to it. It is, we said pre-season that it's going to be really, really competitive. And it's absolutely showing itself.
Yeah, but did you see Lance Bradley's tweet? He put out saying anyone could beat anyone in the URC. It did not end well for him, put it that way. The replies that he got, some of them are pretty savage. Some of them are quite unfair, actually.
He's not wrong. And people have used examples which are very carefully selected. Like the top 14 this weekend was quite close, but there were blowouts the week before. You know, so again, I put this on the Ospreys Irie Twitter account, right? My sanity is at a breaking point regarding this topic. Personally, I have an opinion, and as someone who has skin in both, right? The URC is a great league, a great standard of rugby, allegedly a shit standard of refereeing.
Yes.
But it's also correct that at the moment in time, it might not be, in its current state, is not right for Welsh teams. That is not a controversial thing to say. People need to calm down.
I just feel if you put anything positive, though, about the URC on Welsh Rugby Twitter, you're going to get shot down in flames. And sometimes I actually think it's unfair, because I do think this is a good league. And I've said to you guys many times, this league has got many, many flaws. But I'm telling you now, it is still, in my mind, a far better competition than the English Premiership. Absolutely. Every day of the week.
And on that note, before we head down another tunnel, we're going to call it a day. And thank you very much for your time, gents. Pleasure as always. We shall put stuff out on socials tomorrow. And if I get time, we'll cut this up and do fancy stuff. And everyone will go, yeah, look at your videos. Isn't that amazing? So thank you for tonight. I hope you enjoy your rugby for the rest of the week. And I shall see you next week. All the very best. Good night, guys. That was WRAP, the Welsh Regional Rugby Appreciation Podcast. Please rate, review and share us on socials if you can, and join us again next week for more of the same. And until then, enjoy your rugby.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.